I was fueled by cocaine and alcohol because I needed to be the scariest, most intimidating version of myself. And I'm actually really grateful that I'm actually alive. I've had brushes with death. I've had people that wanted to kill me, and I've had people that I probably would have killed them if I'd seen them.
Hey, I'm Mark Chauppetta, and welcome to Covert to Overt. I'll give you a brief little description as to why I decided to call the show Covert to Overt, and that's probably because I am a licensed private investigator, and I am not the most covert person in the world. I'm sort of an overt person, and many years ago, I had just made an appearance on the Howard Stern show. I was on an undercover job. I get a phone call after that job that I thought went successful. The woman said to me, "I know who the fuck you are. I saw you on the Howard Stern show. Tell your client to go fuck themselves." So at that point, I decided I am no longer covert. I am just an overt guy. My wife says, "Mark, why are you going to therapy when you talk to everyone like they are your therapist?" That being said, this podcast is going to kind of be like a therapy session. Each episode, we're going to have an interesting and great guest. And today, I actually have someone that I've always wanted to have on for a while, someone that I've kind of admired from afar, maybe someone that I've even had somewhat of a man crush on.
Now that you're admitting that, this got really awkward. But Mark,
let me introduce you.
Yes.
Damien Trites.
Yes.
The Omen.
The Omen.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me, and I appreciate the compliments. It means a lot to me. We just took a very long ride up here to Danbury, Connecticut, and I never actually been to this studio. I did the Locked In with Ian Bick, but I did it in upstate New York. So thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Bob. Can I correct you on something? And this is what I always do to my wife, and she gives me shit. Is this technically down here or up here?
Yeah. It's down here.
My wife's like, "You want to go up to Rhode Island for dinner?"
Right.
I'm like, "We live in Massachusetts. Rhode Island is south." She's like, "Why do you have to be so literal?"
Yeah. So we're here, and I'm grateful that you're having me. And this is actually your first podcast, correct?
This is the inaugural show.
Okay.
It's something that I've always looked forward to doing. Something that I see as a creative therapy. People are going to get to know me and know my personality. A lot of people that will be listening to the show probably already know about my background and my history. And I find comfort in kind of going into a character or talking to other people, other interesting people. So we're going to have a lot of interesting guests. And, you certainly didn't really start off the right way with the choice of attire you have on, but I really don't judge people by their laundry. But
I hear you.
And isn't that kind of an oxymoron?
I won't judge you on yours. You know what I mean?
Right.
Fair enough.
Isn't that kind of an oxymoron? Like, are you supposed to wear a Yankees hat and a giant sweatshirt?
Well, technically, Mark, we are in Danbury, Connecticut. There's a lot of Yankees and Giants fans, so I think I blend in pretty well out here.
There's probably more New York fans in this area than there are. And I will say, as a Boston fan, since we broke the curse, it's harder to hate on the Yankees than it was when I was growing up and we were suffering for all those years.
I'm sure.
Giants, well, that story still needs to be rewritten.
Hopefully.
Thanks to Eli Manning, who doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame. But so tell us about yourself. Tell the viewing audience about yourself. I'm looking at you, and I'm looking at a guy that I know your background, and I know where you came from, and I know that you had somewhat of a roller coaster life, and I know you have a redemption story, and I love redemption stories, and I love people that have that redemption in their lives, that have that ability to change. So just kind of talk about yourself and where you came from and why the hell you tattooed your knuckles. I want to know all these things.
Okay, sounds good, man. So yeah, I mean, I think a lot of viewers, a lot of people know my story. I was born and raised in Springfield, Massachusetts, which is western Massachusetts by the Connecticut border, borders Enfield, Connecticut. It's about a 40-minute ride to Hartford, a 2-hour ride to the Bronx, to New York City, and about an hour ride to Boston. I grew up lower middle class. Both my parents have been married 40 years. Yeah, and Springfield is a tough place to grow up. I grew up in a pretty tough area. East Forest Park isn't a really tough area, but Springfield in general is a pretty tough place to grow up. So, yeah, bullied my whole life until I was like 16 years old. And yeah, I started training martial arts, started training boxing. I think people know, my past history and stuff. Spent some time in juvenile detention in New York. Moved to New York when I was 13. They know pretty much they all know that story.
Well, tell our viewers that story.
Yeah. So my father took a job when I was 13 years old. And, he uprooted us to New York. And, at the time I was going through a really tough time in my life. I was 13. I was small. Mm-hmm. I wasn't a big kid. And it was a tough move for me. Mm-hmm. I had a real tough time for the first couple of years. Developed some relationships, specifically with two guys. One of them, they call him Slim, very, very tough kid, and my friend Kevin, who ended up committing suicide in 1996. That was probably one of the most significant moments in my life, I would say. Mm-hmm. Looking back at it now, I look at it as life experience, right? Because we're all molded and shaped through life experience. And that was something that molded and shaped my life at the time.
Yeah.
For bad. Fast forward to now, I look back at it. Unfortunately, yeah, he passed away, but it really made me strong, resilient, and made me have that fighter mentality.
Right.
A little bit of time after Kevin passed away from suicide, I ended up in juvenile detention for multiple assault and batteries, and I got sentenced to upstate New York, and I did 18 months in a juvenile detention center in upstate New York. And yeah, I mean, I spoke about that experience. It was tough. I was on a unit with 70 other kids. It was an open dorm. And I was one of 2 white kids on my unit. So you can imagine what that was like. Every day we were fighting over, whatever, fighting over food, over the phone, over you name it, and juveniles is, in my opinion, is worse than adults because all they want to do is fight.
Yeah, plus you're dealing with adolescents.
You're dealing with kids.
And you're going through puberty and you have all these issues in life. Yep. And, I mean, I thought spending one night in jail on 60 Days In was tough. I could never have handled juvenile hall. I thought that my sisters calling me tippy toes because I walked on my toes as a kid was bullying. But, what you've gone through in life, pales in comparison to...
So that's kind of sort of what really, the death of my friend and then going to jail.
Yeah.
Really, those 2 things really just molded me and shaped me into a hateful young man, I had a lot of anger, had a lot of hate inside of me. And when I got out is when, just... I didn't want to be alive, to be honest with you. I was fueled with anger and just had a lot of pent-up aggression inside of me. Mm-hmm. And, when you're that young, you don't know how to really communicate.
No.
You know, I wasn't a good communicator, you know, and I had ADD. I had, I had been diagnosed with ADD at a young age. So, you know, I had all kinds of mental health stuff going on, along with, you know, the trauma from my friend being dead and all that type of stuff.
But didn't you say that? I mean, you grew up in a fairly healthy family, right? Your parents so you grew up in a pretty nuclear family. So
blessed.
Right. So for what to happen to you isn't common. Usually something stems from your parents or a divorce or something, you know. So, you know, what do you attribute it to? You know, having that good structure from your parents. What kind of veered you off course?
Well, the death of
just
my
the
friend.
death. That's
the death of my friend, and then when you're young like that, you know, everybody wants to try to comfort you and be there for you, but they don't know how to.
Right.
Because they don't understand
right.
the death of, you know, look, suicide is a horrible thing. It's a big problem in this country, you know, along with mental illness, you know, untreated mental illness. It's probably two, you know, huge issues in this country. That being said, you know, as a parent, I'm a parent now. My son's 22 years old. And, you know, if my son went through suicide, for me, it would be easy to kind of, well, not easy. Obviously, it's hard to navigate through that kind of trauma, right? But I went through it, so it would be easier. My parents never went through that.
Right.
So for them to try to be there for me, it's a tall order to ask any parent. You know, so they did the best that they could with what they could, but they didn't know how to handle it.
Right.
You know, and then you add along the fact that I had all that anger inside of me from being away. It's just a recipe for disaster. So I gravitated towards the wrong crowd and went down a dark road, and that lasted, you know, 20, 25, you know, 30 years of just...
Really? Close to that many years?
Yeah.
And...
Yeah, I didn't... all that trauma, you bury all that trauma, and then it just piles up. The rest of the stuff that you go through, it just piles up over the years, you know, and I'm not making excuses, you know, like at the end of the day, like my life experience is what molded me and shaped me into the individual I am today.
Right.
To be able to sit here and tell my redemption, you know, because there is another side to the coin now. You know, and I'm grateful that I went through all the stuff that I went through, because, in my opinion, the way that you learn the most is through life experience.
100%. And I may have grown up in a different type of a lifestyle, and you know, some could say, you know, it was kind of very Happy Days-esque. I was adopted at 6 weeks old into a beautiful family, but you know, as I get older in life, and as therapists have told me that I have trauma from that separation at such a young age, at weeks old, that there's trauma that came into my life that I suppressed, that's, you know, affected me later in life, when I just thought, how could that be? I've had a normal lifestyle, a normal upbringing, and you know, how could it be just from being taken away from my biological sibling? Could that happen? You know, but you know, back to redemption. Like 35 years as a criminal investigator, former correction officer. I mean, I would say some of my best and greatest friends on this planet are people that have been through the ringer, people that have had life experience. I kind of get a little nervous if someone looks a little bit too perfect.
100%.
Because nobody's perfect. I gravitate towards people like yourself, you know, because I love a good story, and I love people that can change, and you know, it's a beautiful thing. And it teaches you.
And the journey for me wasn't easy. You know, the journey for me wasn't easy, and you know, my story started. You know, the whole being a street kid and growing up in the streets and having, you know, and being around that life when I was young, you know, after I came out of jail, it only progressed into way worse things, you know, around more dangerous individuals, and just, it evolved, right? Like life constantly keeps evolving. And the older you get, the more you start to get introduced, the more street credibility you have, the more people that you cross paths with, and then it just kind of snowballs until you're like so far deep entrenched in that life that it's scary.
What was that street life like? Like I grew up on the mean streets of Whitman, Mass, where the Toll House cookie was invented.
Well,
not where you grew up.
Yeah, well, just to kind of tell you where, like my life, right before I got sober, and we can get into that too. But I was fueled by cocaine and alcohol.
Right.
And I had to be that way in order to operate the way that I needed to operate around the people that I was operating around, because I needed to be the scariest, most intimidating version of myself. Because if I wasn't and I showed weakness, the streets would swallow you up. I hung around, the Mardi Gras, which is like a big strip club where all the gangsters congregated, a lot of, drug dealers.
I believe I've been there. I think I had an investigation there many, many years ago.
Yeah. It was owned by a former gangster who became a FBI informant and became a rat.
But that lifestyle also, as dangerous as it was, especially someone like yourself who I know has that creative side to him and loves movies and loves that, maybe that the cinema kind of created that kind of lifestyle in your brain. So in some ways it was probably somewhat sexy to you living that life, right?
Oh, 100%. You watch movies, listen, look, these phones, horrible.
Yeah.
We could talk we can go down a whole rabbit hole with how movies, music influence people. 100%. They say that movies, music doesn't influence people. That's bullshit. 100%. Music, movies, video games, all that stuff influences people to do things.
Started back in the 80s when that family sued Ozzy Osbourne for Suicide Solution. That song.
I mean, you grow up listening to NWA, you want to be a fucking gangster,
right?
You grow up listening to Mobb Deep, you want to stand on the corner and fucking drink and fight and shoot at people and do whatever people do in these songs, right?
So
you emulate it.
I was listening to ABBA. How the hell did I become a cage fighter?
Well, I guess some people are more influenced than others, right?
Yeah, true.
Some people are more easily influenced.
Yeah.
Some people aren't. It really depends on the person. And it goes back to what I was saying about these phones.
Yeah.
Now you have the video games, you have the music still.
Yeah.
You have all that stuff, but now you have the whole dynamic of the rabbit hole that people go down on these phones.
Yeah.
Because there's unlimited information and an algorithm based on what you're searching.
Yeah.
You can watch murder on there's videos of real murders.
Yeah. They're like internet private investigators, they're stalking you and feeding you what your mind, so back to your parents who seem wonderful and very, very normal, and they've been married for 40-something years.
40 years,
That's God bless them. I've been married close to 20 with 3 wives.
I'm truly blessed.
Yeah.
Truly blessed. Like, my parents are great people. Like,
but is there a history with your family with mental health, addiction? Like, is there anything in the bloodlines that you kind of connected to yourself, or are you just kind of a...
To be honest with you, I would say that probably both my parents probably suffer from some sort of mental illness. They both have severe trauma from stuff that they went through.
Right.
Listen, they grew up in a different era.
Yeah.
People didn't talk about trauma.
No.
People didn't talk about mental illness back then.
Yeah.
My parents are old school through and through. My mother's Irish. My father's Italian.
Same as me.
And they grew up different. Yeah. You fucking fall on your bike, you throw some dirt on that shit.
Did they tell you that they loved you when you were growing up?
Of course.
Did they?
Of course.
See, that's something that generation really didn't do.
Of course. But I think well, my father did, but rare.
Right.
Like it was rare. Like my
Yeah.
father, if he did, it was
Yeah.
like, once every 5 years. You know,
Right.
It's
my
mom,
Dad.
was
It's time to tell me you love me.
my mom was different. My dad was more. He was hardcore.
Yeah.
Old school.
Same.
If you got into a fight and you lost in the neighborhood, you better you crying. I'll give you something to cry about.
Right.
You better go out there and handle your business.
Yeah.
And in the neighborhood I grew up in, it was like, it's what we did.
Right.
We grew up, we fought. Like it ain't like today's generation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I just find myself like my parents. They adopted me. They adopted me and my 2 older sisters.
I got to use the bathroom.
Do you really?
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a break. You got a bad bladder for a 40-something year. You better go get your prostate checked.
I do.
All right. So,
dude, when nature calls, right?
Well, this episode of Covert to Overt is brought to you by Mail Depends. like when you
shit. Mail Depends.
How old are you? 41?
I'm getting up there, bro.
So it's
46.
Have you gone for your first colonoscopy? Let me ask you that.
I have not.
You haven't.
I have to.
You need to make an appointment. This is a PSA. Make an appointment. Get your colonoscopy checked. It's going to be one of the best naps you ever had in your life.
Okay.
If they violate you down there, you won't even know about it. It'll just be on the dark web.
This is fucked up. Now I don't want to go. Well, so anyway, like
where were we before you?
Yeah, before you started talking about colonoscopies and stuff. But yeah, no, we were talking about mental illness, man, and my family, and you talked about. You had asked me about my mom and my dad.
Hereditary stuff.
Yeah, hereditary stuff, and my parents, like I said, are very old school. I don't think that they would ever admit if they had mental illness, and that's okay, man. Like I've accepted. Yeah. Listen, I've learned to accept people for who they are and not try to change people.
Right.
I think part of my problem was with my parents and the issues that I've had with my parents is like trying to change them. They're never gonna change. They're old school. They're stuck in their ways, and it is what it is. Yeah. So, I mean, as far as the mental illness stuff goes, probably, but. My mom and my dad ain't going to no therapist.
But you're blessed.
Blessed.
My mother passed away when she was 55, which is 2 years younger than what I am right now. And at the time, I thought that was old. Excuse me. My father passed away when he was 67. So, it's a tough thing to deal with, not having your parents.
Dude,
and,
I can't even imagine. I was
especially asking. I mean, I could use $5-10 here and there, and that's what my dad was always good for, and I don't have him around for that.
Yeah, I was just talking to a dear friend of mine, Gaetano Milano Jr. His father was
that rhymes.
Yeah, Gaetano Milano Jr. His father was Gaetano Milano Sr. and
great name.
And he was a hitman. Oh. Actually, he did.
I take that back. Wonderful person.
He did 20 years in prison. When he came out, he was working at a recovery center called Swift River. Yeah. And he was teaching all the people that were in recovery how to oil paint, because he learned how to oil paint in prison. And he turned his life over to God. And he just passed away, Gaetano Milano Sr. And his son was telling me, appreciate your parents, and because he's really going through it. He just lost his dad, and
that's tough.
Just sending love to Gaetano, because I just spoke to him yesterday.
100%.
And it kind of reminded me of that conversation I had yesterday, to be grateful for what we have, because it's just so true. Life is so precious. You just never know.
Well, life certainly is precious, and life is certainly filled with a lot of different traumas. And I like what you said earlier about about life being a story, and learning from your story and trying to become a better person because of what happened in your life. I have things in my life, trauma from the younger days that I struggle to accept that was just a part of life then. I struggle to forgive myself for mistakes I made. I struggle to give myself grace, which is what everyone seems to tell me when it comes to certain things, in my life, and before we kind of get into the trauma portion of this podcast, let's transition. So you're in juvie hall. You're hanging out with, some of these shady characters, hanging out at the strip joints, living the life of Riley out in the street, which seemed cool at the time, but if you want a future, it's certainly not the direction you want to go. How did you transition that lifestyle into the world of mixed martial arts? And
Well, I was actively fighting during all this.
during all this, you were
So I was
fighting?
I was actively fighting the whole time. I was involved in crime and hanging around with the people I was hanging around with and stuff like that. I was fighting, but I was using drugs and alcohol too.
Right.
So I was never gonna ever reach my full potential.
Right.
One thing I'll tell the viewers out there is that if you're ever trying to make it in life in whatever you're doing, you're never gonna reach your full potential using drugs and alcohol. And believe it or not, like, I went through like a really horrible breakup, man. Like, I went through like a bad breakup, that literally destroyed me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it just destroyed me. And when I went through that breakup, man, I went down a rabbit hole. I don't know if you've ever had your heart broken.
I've only had my heart broken once, and that's recently when I just lost my son.
Yeah.
I've never felt that type of heartbreak in my life,
I
and
can't even
and
imagine.
I'm still dealing with it. You think at the time that having your heart broken from a woman is all encompassing,
Yeah.
but when you get to a little different level of loss, but I get it, and I don't knock anyone that's been through that, because that can affect you, losing someone that you love.
No, for sure. And
a relationship.
I want to obviously say I'm really sorry for your loss, man. I can't imagine the pain, and I apologize.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons why we started this podcast. It is a dedication to my son Troy, who I lost, who's my hero, and his twin brother, Andrew. And we'll talk a little bit about trauma. And I being creative. He was a creative type of a kid, and I think being creative is just also a kind of a euphoric, feeling, a dopamine type feeling. It's a natural drug, doing something like this to help ease the pain in life. If you have that ability to get that kind of high from something natural, then I'm going to use it. And grieving the loss of a child, this is the kind of the approach I took. But anyway, so you were fighting, and that is a tough thing. I've seen fighters, professional fighters, whether it's in the UFC or whatever, talk about how they'd stop drinking and drugging right prior to a fight, and you were a tough son of a bitch, and I remember you from the local scene and the local circuit, and I remember that time you turned down a fight with me.
I never turned down a fight, Mark. Come on, man. You know me better than that. Yeah, man. And the heartbreak is really what made me realize that I need to take a look at myself. And I got sober, man. Good. I got sober, and I actually got sober the day before my birthday. And it'll be 5 years this August 22nd. So I was in a really bad, dark place, man, and I decided, that I needed to get sober. I decided that the girl wasn't coming back.
Yeah.
She probably cheated on me.
Right.
She probably, all the things that I thought was happening.
Yeah.
Definitely probably happened, right?
Yeah. Right.
And she wasn't coming back. And I had to grieve the loss of a woman that was still alive,
right?
Which was very, very difficult. But I said I need to build myself up.
Yeah.
I need to build myself up. I need to become a fucking superhero.
Right.
And I need to put on my big boy pants and look at myself in the mirror and start to make changes.
What was your go-to, when it came to substance?
Cocaine.
Cocaine?
Cocaine and alcohol were my drug of choice.
just the two together, or did
two
the
together.
alcohol lead you
The
to
two together
cocaine?
made me an absolute lunatic.
Right.
You know, everywhere I went when I was using cocaine, I was drinking, I carried a gun. You know, I was just a dangerous person, man. Just a very, very dangerous, unpredictable person. You didn't know what Damien you were going to get, you know.
Wow.
And it's scary, you know. And I'm actually really grateful that I'm actually alive.
Right.
You know, I've had brushes with death. I've had people that wanted to kill me, and I've had people that I probably would have killed them if I seen them.
But that's scary. This is the the real Damien Trites. You know, this is the good human being underneath the facade of a gangster. So where's the Omen come from? How did you get that nickname?
So the Omen comes from my friend Big James Quill, who used to fight for Y Crew.
Yeah.
He gave me the nickname during a sparring session because he's like, dude, you look fucking evil. You look like the Omen. And it just kind of stuck.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I mean, so let's talk about the facade.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, because that right there is exactly what people do when they're in addiction and they're not healthy spiritually, is they wear masks.
Yeah.
I talk about this all the time. And it was time for me to take the mask off, so to speak, and just be true to who I really, truly am.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I realized that I needed to fix was, number one, my anger, all my trauma. I need to stop holding on to resentments. You know, you talk about yourself with your son and all that stuff. Like, you need to, like, don't hold on to resentments that you have towards yourself. It's like drinking poison, right? And I realized also that that I was spiritually sick.
Right.
I was spiritually sick. I had gotten so far away from who I really was,
right,
that I didn't even know who I was anymore.
Were you raised a Catholic?
Yes.
Irish, Italian, It seems to make sense.
Yes. I was raised Catholic, and I went to catechism when I was a kid, and I went.
Did you go to parochial school?
I went to parochial school, and up until I was in third grade, and my parents are both God fearing people.
Right.
And I just was spiritually sick.
Yeah.
So I started investing in God when I got sober, and I started praying, getting on my knees, being grateful for what I have, for not what I don't have. And ultimately, I changed my mindset.
Right. Do you feel like you need to go to a church or go to a temple or go somewhere to have that God in you? Is that something? Because I grew up Catholic, and it was drilled in my head. My father was an usher. My uncle was a Catholic priest, and when I recently just lost Troy, I was searching, and it's only been 4 or 5 months, so I went back to the Catholic Church, and I just found it difficult to be there and follow the same practices that I regretted, that I hated as a child when I got forced to go there by my parents. And I'm finally like, I don't need to go to a brick and mortar in order to have some sort of spirituality or have some sort of belief, or to know my child is in a better place right now.
Yeah. So my opinion on churches and it's stuff like that is it's great for people that like it. God bless them. I'm not saying I don't go to church.
Right.
But I don't feel like I have to go to church in order to have a relationship with God.
Right.
And my relationship is built by getting on my knees every day and being grateful for the things that I'm grateful for in the morning, and at night taking accountability for the things that maybe I didn't do that I should have done. And the key word there is accountability.
Right.
Today I live being accountable for the things that I do in my life.
And being
I was never accountable before.
Well,
I didn't care about accountability.
So let me ask you, your son is 22 years old.
Yes.
Okay. And you've been clean and sober for 5 years.
Yes.
So that brings him down to his teenage years. Was your relationship with your son somewhat estranged? And I would assume right now, from what you tell me, it's thriving.
My relationship with my son was never estranged.
It wasn't?
Ever.
Okay.
No, I always made it a point to
Mm-hmm.
to have a really, really strong relationship.
Good.
To me, family's everything.
Yeah.
Me being Italian and Irish,
Yep.
we still get together
Yep.
on Sundays and have Sunday dinner.
Yep.
And that's just the way that I was raised.
So you were able to hide that addiction when you went into dad mode.
Not necessarily hide it. I mean, yeah, he didn't know I was using
Yeah.
cocaine, but I mean, if I'd go to the house and I was hungover,
Yeah.
I voiced the fact that I was hungover. I never really hid anything from my kid.
Right.
Because I don't believe in that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, there's certain things I don't have to tell him.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't need to know.
Right.
And if he asked, I'd be transparent with him because that's just who I am.
Right. I like that. Sunday dinners. That's I enforce Sunday dinners on my family.
That's great.
I think it's something you need to do. Sunday dinners have been tough for us since we lost one of our gang, but
Yeah.
I think being together as a family is still, with him there in spirit is important. I value and I respect your belief, and I think it's, I'll tell you real quick. I had someone reach out to me after my son passed away, no names mentioned, offering condolences, very, nice, just offering condolences.
Yeah.
But then telling me that if I don't become reborn, that I'm not going to be able to see my child in heaven. And I'm like, all right, so for 30 years, I've taken care of disabled young men. I hold doors open for old ladies and old men, and I've never really coveted my neighbor's wife, only because she was never good looking. So I think I deserve to be in heaven. So you're telling me that I'm not going to go to heaven and I'm not going to be able to see my son in the afterworld because I'm not going to let someone push my face into a dirty pond of water? And I was just kind of offended by it.
Yeah. And who really is the authority on who goes and who doesn't go?
Right.
Only one man. And
Yeah.
that's Jesus Christ himself.
Right.
And the religion that I follow.
Right.
Not everyone
Yeah.
has to believe that
Yeah.
Jesus Christ is their Lord and Savior.
Yeah.
He's my Lord and
Yeah.
Savior. And ultimately he makes a decision on where I
Right.
go when I'm dead. And nobody else is gonna tell me what is gonna happen after I'm gone.
Right. And I know their intention was pure,
Yeah.
and I didn't get offended, and I just let it be. I tend to do that I try to take people with a grain of salt, and I try to understand where people are coming through in life and, not get too angry, because just being hateful doesn't really work in life.
Dude, listen, coming from a guy who's angry, 75% of his life,
Yeah.
holding on to anger and resentment is the most toxic thing you can do.
Right.
It just truly is. It stunts our growth as humans.
Right.
If you want to reach your goals and you want to be the best version of yourself, you need to live and let live, man,
Yeah.
and just kind of go with the flow in life and realize that this isn't a sprint.
Yeah.
This is a marathon, and that, there's going to be many peaks and valleys, but that you stay the course.
I like what you said about living in the moment. Me personally, I tend to live in the past, and I tend to stress about what could happen in the future.
I got something amazing I'm going to tell you right now, and this is something that was told to me, and I'm about to drop a jewel right now.
Okay.
So yesterday is
Do
gone.
you need the bathroom again?
So listen. Yesterday is gone. Today is all we have,
Yeah.
and tomorrow's not promised.
Right. Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, you can't get back what happened yesterday. You can't change
Yeah.
the circumstances of yesterday.
Right.
But you're in this moment now, and right now, what are we doing? We're creating,
Right.
right? And tomorrow,
Yeah.
who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? We don't know.
I got this. See this right arm? It's not as muscular as it used to be back in the day, but I could see myself putting that on my arm so I can remind myself and look at it every day.
You should.
You
should, man.
Because I've always wanted to get something else here, and that seems pretty
Yeah.
valid and meaningful.
It is, man. And listen, man, I work in addiction. I work in addiction recovery, and when I got sober and I got my spirituality back, And I finally realized who I am. And who I am is a good-hearted, good person who will give you the shirt off of his back, you know, and do anything to go out of my way to help whoever, right?
Yep.
And when I finally realized who I was, I got into addiction and recovery, into the field of, you know, working on helping people get healthy.
Great segue. Well, let's talk about this, and I want to go back and share something about fighting. But that's one of the reasons why I reached out to you, because I've been watching your socials, and I've been seeing you kind of tease your next, you know, adventure in life.
Yeah.
And one of the things I saw in there that I thought was really interesting, that I think is genius, is that you're also offering, you know, like fitness, jiu-jitsu training classes, you know, within your facilities. And I've always said to my wife, I'm like, it makes total sense to kind of connect the two dots. So tell us about the name of your place, what your mission is, and when you're hoping to have it open.
So what I'll tell you is, man, is I got sober, and you know, and in 2024, my son's 21st birthday, I lost my son's mother to fentanyl. You know, and I was actually on the set of a movie that I was shooting, Hungry Hill, when I found out the news that my son's mother had passed away. And I had to drive all the way to UMass Lowell and tell my son that his mom died on his birthday. When we pulled up to the school, he thought we were there to celebrate his birthday, and we were there to give him the bad news. And the look on his face when I told him that his mother had passed away looked like it drained the life out of him, and it sticks with me to this day. And I was able to stay sober that whole time and stand up and be the man that I knew that I needed to be for my son.
I'm getting chills right now.
And I said to myself, I can't let my son's mother die in vain. You know, I just can't let her die in vain. I can't let somebody else go through that, you know? And my business partner, Luke Howarth, just a great man, just a great guy.
Yeah.
I met him at the gym. I was doing some personal training with him and developed a relationship with him over the course of a year and a half. And you talk about God and divine intervention.
Yeah.
He put Luke into my life, and Luke was at one of the recovery centers that I worked at, Charles River Recovery, which is owned by George Carroll. He owns a bunch of different rehab facilities. A guy who was in the movie The Town, Slain.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah. He does a lot of great work for recovery and stuff like that. So I met Luke at his treatment facility, and then we came up with the idea of opening our own treatment facility. And, you know, everything has kind of come full circle in my life with the recovery stuff. My company is called Brave Path Recovery.
Is it inpatient, outpatient?
It is outpatient, part-time treatment, full-time treatment. If you want to contact us, go to bravepathrecovery.org.
Yeah, we'll have that at the end of the podcast with all your information.
Yeah, we you know, have relationships and partnerships with other treatment facilities, depending on what kind of level of care you need. But we are an outpatient treatment facility. We will be offering, you know, self-defense classes, the whole therapeutic side of you know, the clinical stuff.
I mean, you certainly, obviously you don't have the clinical degree, but you have the clinical life experience.
There's nothing better, in my opinion, than life experience when it comes to recovery. I'm living proof that you can get sober and that you can have an amazing life.
Hell yeah.
I have an amazing life today. I'm like extremely grateful for the life I have. You know, I've been really, really blessed. Clear-headed, waking up every day clear-headed, and just excited for the day. You know, it's night and day to where I was before, to where I had to do a substance, and I had to look over my shoulder, and I was carrying a gun everywhere I went.
Right. That's crazy.
You know, those days are over.
Do you even own a gun anymore?
No.
No?
No, and I don't need one.
Right.
You know, I'm protected by the Lord, the man upstairs. And, you know, I live every day with that mantra that I'm protected by the Lord, and whatever happens, whatever comes my way, I know that God's got my back.
So what are you looking for opening date? You looking sometime 2026, mid 26?
Yeah, so no. We're going to be open in hopefully July.
Awesome.
You know, they're in the process of doing all the construction now. Our facility's at 321 Fortune Boulevard in Milford, Massachusetts.
Amazing.
So if you're in the Metro West, Worcester area and you need treatment,
or if you're anywhere in New England.
Yeah, anywhere in New England.
You know,
we do. They have Zoom. We're gonna have Zoom, so you can, if you can't access us, if you're in another part of the state and you want to access us, you can access us.
What about things like, I mean, and I'm not making jokes here, but what are things like food addiction and gambling and things like that? Is that separate, or is that
listen? We're at the very early stages of opening our facility. It's gonna be a lot of trial and error at the beginning. You know, we're gonna look to help
expand.
Every individual expand. We wanna open multiple facilities. This is just the first of many.
Well, I'll be honest. After my son passed away, I slipped. Like, I don't have a substance addictive personality.
Yeah.
I don't do drugs. I barely drink socially, but under high stress, I eat.
Yeah,
and I eat till
I can relate.
And
That's
I
my
eat
addiction
till I'm
now.
sick.
Yeah,
like I'm not even hungry. I just
I hear you.
You know, like
I hear you. I'm the same, man. You know,
like I'm looking at legislating up on Beacon Hill to ban Cheez-Its. because those things that's my poison, and that's what I was suffering with when through my grieving process, which I'm still doing. I just was able to kind of reel it in a little bit and try to refocus my brain and recenter myself. But there's just a comforting feeling about it when you're down and out. You got to find something that's but then you feel 10 times worse afterwards.
100%. It's just like any other. Same thing with substances.
Right.
Just like any other addiction, and I'm glad that you recognize that you are doing that, because that's half the battle. Yeah. Like the first step in Alcoholics Anonymous is admitting that we're powerless over alcohol,
right,
and that our lives have become unmanageable.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest step for a lot of people, right? Is actually admitting that they have a problem.
Well, isn't that the first thing in recovery? I've never been to it.
That's it. But yeah, man, and I just my life has come full circle. Like I met a girl that's in recovery, and she has an amazing story. Like she 27 years cancer free. Like, dude, she has an incredible story. Was a child actress. Like she was casted for the Karate Kid 4, and she was told that
I didn't even know there was a Karate Kid 4.
Yeah. She was told that she had bone cancer, and they didn't think she was gonna make it. And she's an incredible woman, really truly is
So she balances you out,
dude. She's just I really firmly believe that God puts people in your lives for a reason, and and she came into my life at the perfect time, and dude, whatever you're going through, it's gonna pass. You know what I mean? I said this in Ian Bick's podcast.
Yeah.
It's don't ever give up, man. Yeah. You can't give up in life, because you just don't know where your life is gonna end up.
But you need like-minded people, and
and
I think that's important, especially if you are an addict or a recovering addict. I think having a like-minded person that understands. I have a stepson that has had some addiction issues, and we always I just don't drink around my kids, period. Anyways, it's one of my rules raising twin sons that are in wheelchairs is if we go out, I'd never have a drink, because I need to be in control. I need to pick them up, transfer them, be responsible, and my stepson, I won't have a drink around him. Now, because he's not yet at that point.
Well, you're a father first, dude.
Right.
And you realize that. And that's your number one responsibility.
Yeah.
And that's what makes men, right?
Right.
We're protectors, we're providers.
Yeah.
And, all that kid shit that I did before, it's just not who I am anymore.
No, of course not.
You know, we had a conversation. You got the Lozon shirt on. You know, we had a conversation on the ride up here.
Yeah.
And you know, recently I had reached out to Danny and I wanted to bury the hatchet because of a beef that we had 20 years ago?
Right.
You know, we fought, he won, he was the better man, he beat me. It's all good, man. Like I don't hold on to any hate or resentment anymore.
Here's your public. Let's move on to Mr. Danny Lozon. For those that don't know, is a former UFC fighter.
Great fighter.
Younger brother of UFC legend Joe Lozon, who's my trainer. If I didn't have, dude, I couldn't be as tough as you in a million years. I think we have a lot of similarities with that inner strength.
Yeah.
But you'd knock me out in a fight. I might take you down in a double leg, but
I might triangle you.
yeah, you could.
But listen, Joe is a guy. Joe is a guy who I have like uber respect for. I mean, talk about a legend, man. He's been around. We came up around the same time, and you know, we don't really know each other like that. But I have such a respect for the father he is. More than anything, regardless of the martial arts, I think as fathers,
100%.
The one thing you respect about a man is a man that provides and protects for his family, and I know that he does that. Yeah. And I tip my hat to him. You know?
His school's pretty much saved my life, and jiu-jitsu has saved my life. My friends from my class, and it's a brotherhood, it's a camaraderie. You see all these videos of older people sometimes on socials, on IG, and they're like, "What do you like about jiu-jitsu?" And usually the first thing they say is the friendships and the camaraderie.
Nothing like it.
There's no bond.
Dude, you
like
look
it.
on a mat and you see walks of life, all different walks of life.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, like the brotherhood that you share with people when you sweat with them and you bleed with them on the mat. And that's why, like, some of my closest friends in the world, Steve Dunn, John Howard, guys that I cut my teeth with in the MMA circuit, these are guys that I will, if they called me tomorrow and said, "Hey, I need you to come here. I need your help," I'd be there in a second because the respect.
Well, shout out, and again, this is going to reach a broad audience, but shout out to Steve Dunn. He's a mutual friend of both of ours, and he was the first person in line at my son's wake recently, and mad props. Love
Stevie's the best.
Love him for that.
Great man.
We do have one thing in common.
Okay.
In fighting.
Let's hear it.
We both got submitted the same way.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
By the same fighter.
By who?
Brendan Hoxie.
Oh, wow.
Armbar.
Yeah.
He got me in an armbar.
Yeah.
And I heard you say he got you in an armbar.
He did. Oh my God, I beat that dude. I beat that dude half to death almost in the first round. I broke my hand on his face. That's how many times I punched him. I mean, dude, I'm not kidding. That was the hardest. That kid, I hit that kid so hard, so many times, and he kept falling down. But he kept getting back up, and then at the end of the first round, I hit him so hard I thought he was out cold. He fell and he kind of like flailed on his back, and I mounted him. He came out the back door, took my back, round ends. I go back to my corner. Kenny Florian was in my corner. Kenny Florian says to me, looks at me, he goes, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" He's like, "I keep telling you, stay off the ground." I'm like, "Dude, my hand's broken." I'm like, I can't punch with my hand, right? So bell rings. I come out and I'm throwing my broken hand. I'm swinging at him, swinging for the fences. We get into like a little bit of a footlock situation. He goes back for a footlock. I go back for a footlock. As soon as I go back for a footlock, he mounts me, throws up an arm bar, Hail Mary arm bar. He gets it, locks it in, and I tapped. That was it. It was the end of it. That kid was, I'll tell you what, that kid was super tough.
Yeah.
He was tough.
I was a guy that fought every couple years to raise money for his kids. And I took a fight with him, and I remember. Well, first of all, I got armbarred by a kid that came out to the cage in pink bra and panties.
bro, he came out wearing a Burger King fucking crown when I fought him. I mean, he had a Burger King crown on. He had boxing gloves.
Yeah.
And he had a jock strap on.
Yeah.
And he came out, his brother was wearing
So we were both humiliated.
His brother was wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Like an old man mask.
Yeah.
I'm going, this fucking kid's a nut.
Yeah.
You know, but you know what? He was a weird guy.
Yeah.
But he was so good on the ground, dude.
So Lozon,
I mean, he was doing like brown belt, black belt moves back when, if you were a blue belt, you were like, holy shit, you were a blue belt. You know?
Joe Lozon was cornering me, and you know, I was watching him prior to the fight, just feeling out the cage, and he was moving around with his hands down, and I'm like, okay, so you know, 1-2 combination, come right out, 1-2 combination. I make his head spin. He goes, you know, back to the cage. I should have kept my distance and threw some kicks, you know, and continue to hammer him. But I kind of got a little close, and he just kind of hung on, and he tripped me to the ground. So then I reversed him. So my fight is not as sexy as yours, and it didn't last. He was sexy in his pink bra and underwear, but it didn't last as long as yours. So I then reversed him. I mount him. I start throwing bombs down on his face. I overextended. And he caught my arm.
Yeah. He was super flexible.
Joe's like, didn't I tell you to watch out for his armbar?
He was so flexible.
Yeah.
He just could throw his legs up.
So we're kind of brothers because
yeah, we are. We're Eskimo brothers in the fighting world.
We're Eskimo brothers in the in the fighting world. But man, like you are a really cool guy. You're really, you know, insightful. So I want to talk to you a little bit about something with regards to your facility. Give the name of it again.
Yeah, so my company's name is Brave Path Recovery.
Brave Path.
We named it Brave Path Recovery because my son's mother, right before she passed away, she said, I'll come to treatment when she's brave enough. And if you look at the logo right here on the A, that's for her name. The big A is in honor of her. Yep. Her name was Adrienne.
Gotcha.
And I have I have the story about her in our pamphlets, and it's gonna be in Milford, Massachusetts, and again we're gonna be an outpatient treatment center. We've been able to get pretty much all the money together to help us open this thing, and we are looking for other investors, business partners that might want to come in and invest on this thing, but we're good to go. Can
we give her a proper Italian love and just say, yo, Adrian, you're doing it.
Yo, Adrian.
Yo, Adrian. So, man, I'll share something with you, and, you know, and it's something that I'm an open book, I'm transparent, and I'm hoping that this podcast is going to also help people. Yeah, I work day to day as a criminal detective. I work on homicides. I work on serious stuff, but I'm also pretty open, honest, vulnerable human being. I've taken care of disabled sons, and I've taken care of all my kids and my grandkids.
Which I want to say I admire you. You said at the beginning of this podcast how much you admire me, man. But I can't even tell you the amount of admiration I have for you, knowing, what you've been through in your life to have to care for kids like that, because it's probably it was probably tough.
It's been tough, and
mentally, physically.
Yeah. And that's been one of my sticking points in life. You know, going back to many, many years ago, and having disabled children. And really having to grow up really fast. Like I had to grow up.
Of course.
At 24 years old, I got a diagnosis of my son's disease. So there wasn't a lot of time to sow my oats and be young. It was right into being a responsible human being, and then then all the trauma and all the pain. So after losing my son recently, I go to therapy once a week, which everyone needs.
Yeah,
and my therapist, Patrick, is amazing. I had to go through a couple of different ones until I found one that kind of fit with me, because therapy for me over the years has been tough, because a lot of my therapists end up being fangirls and fanboys of me, and they're not helping. They want to hear about stories and cases and celebrities and people that I've come in contact with. And I'm like, look, I'm here to try to get some assistance and some help. I want someone that doesn't give a shit and pump my ego up. And this most recent therapist I have, although I think he laughs at some of my jokes, I think, he's a good fit for me. So what I recently just started doing, and I just did my first session, believe it or not, and I'll preface it by saying I don't have an addictive personality, so I don't know if this works for everyone.
Yeah.
I just did my first ketamine psychotherapy-assisted session
Yep.
2 days ago.
Okay.
First time ever. He
Okay.
thought I was a good candidate for it. It's a low-dose anesthesia
Yeah.
under the supervision of a nurse practitioner
Yep.
while going through a psychotherapy process. Did a lozenger, and it was really a crazy kind of out-of-body experience having it. And I guess the whole key behind it is to that neuroplasticity in your brain and to try to rework. Like my brain, and maybe the forefront of my brain
They're
is
doing a lot of that now.
so damaged and so negative and so hardened that I'm trying to freaking rework part of my brain and
rewire it.
and under the supervision of medical professionals. I've only done session 1. By the time this is broadcast, I'll probably be on session 2. But what do you think about that?
So what I want to touch on, what you actually touched on, is the rewiring process of your brain. And I think that that's the toughest thing about recovery, right? Mm-hmm. Because we're all products of our environment, and if you grow up in an alcoholic household, mm-hmm. the chances are the chances are really good that you're going to become an alcoholic. Yeah. And that's the hardest part about recovery. And during my recovery journey, I actually hired a mentor. His name's Frank Parisi. And he has an incredible story, and I can get him, to be a guest on your podcast. But
he's got a vowel at the end of his name too.
Yeah, he had a heart transplant.
Oh wow!
And he honors the girl that gave him the heart. But he's a very, very motivational guy. Mm-hmm. He speaks highly on mindset, and I'm really big on mindset now. Yeah. Everything is about mindset. And, even when I was young, my mom and my dad, the glass is half full, not half empty. And I think that we all take a lot of things for granted, and we just need to change our mindset. And manifestation is real, but you can't just think about manifesting something and think that it's going to happen without a plan. Mm-hmm. You have to put a plan into action and execute your plan and, have all the right people around, like you said before.
Right.
Show me your friends, I'll show you your future.
Right.
You want to be successful, hang around with successful people.
And I'm not doing it to try to get rid of the grief of the loss of a child. I'm doing it to give myself a little bit of grace and to try to understand what everyone else sees that I don't see sometimes about myself as a person.
Yeah, but it all goes back to you're rewiring your brain. You're trying to rewire your brain. You're trying to figure it out. And I think that if people just take a long, hard look at themselves in the mirror and try to figure it out, why do I have a negative mindset? Why am I angry?
Right.
Why? Get to the root of that shit.
Right.
And do the fucking work.
Do the homework.
Do the work.
Put the time in. Put the work in.
Put the fucking work in.
It's like
love yourself.
Yeah. Put the mitt work in.
Love yourself. Love yourself. Yeah. That's another thing that we didn't really talk about. The lack of love that I had for myself.
Right.
There were times in my life I wanted to die. So what did I do? I self-sabotage with drugs and alcohol. Yeah. Now I do the opposite. I value and I try to take care of myself.
Right.
Mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically. I just try to be good to myself today. Wow. And I think that is the key to life. Yeah. Be good to yourself. You only have one crack at this life thing. And we talked about legacy in the car.
Yes.
How many people do you guys know? And I'll ask and I'll challenge all the listeners out there. How many people do you guys know that when they died, a couple short months after they were gone, their life really wasn't that valuable?
Right.
You know, there was a couple people that went there, showed them love, cried over their casket. But what legacy did they live?
I love the word
A
legacy.
lot of people live and they're just okay with being average.
Yeah.
I'm not okay with being average.
You think I am? I'm sitting there doing a podcast with you.
100%.
My son Troy was not average. His twin Andrew is not average. You know?
Your son is here.
Yes.
Because he's a film guy, and he's taking action and responsibility for his life.
Shout out to Max for producing the show.
To Max.
Even though I had to drag him out of bed this morning.
Yeah. And Max was a little sleepy on the ride, but we encouraged him that he's doing something. He's chasing his dreams. And
Let me see one of your pamphlets real quick. Hand it over to me.
There we go.
All right. So we're going to wrap up this show. And I want everyone to, make sure that you check out Brave Path Recovery. I want you to follow Damien Trites. We'll put up all your Instagram stuff because even if they don't have a need for recovery in their life, I think people have a need to, follow you and follow your positive profile and persona because what you see is what you get. Like, you're not getting a fake person on social media. So many people just go on social media and see a bunch of bullshit and a bunch of fucking facades. Yeah. You're the real deal. What you're going to see, he's a good follow and he's a good person. And
just like Mark said, I mean, if you guys aren't even in recovery, if you need advice, if you need somebody to motivate you, if you just need somebody to talk to, you can always reach out to me on any of my social media platforms. For the most part, I'm not a guy that has a lot of followers and stuff like that, but reach out to me. I want to help people. That's my mission in life. My legacy is, I want to be remembered as a person that just wanted to help people live the best lives that they possibly can live and become the best versions of themselves, And I appreciate you having me on today. It means so much to me.
You got it. Hey,
Godspeed, my friend.
Godspeed to you, my friend, and thank you.
Thank you.